So Gen Z will not fight for World War III, which is kind of interesting because, like the last 50 years of life where a lot of people were very passionate about wanting to fight for wars, but this is the first time I've ever seen a history in time where people are having a lot of pushback for the draft. Obviously, there is no draft going on, but the idea of a draft happening is very low, obviously. But I will say too is that like the fact that a lot of people are already like shutting this idea down is absolutely interesting and unique situation. Now, honestly, guys, there are so many World War III type scares the last 5 years that it's not even funny, dude. And I can't even tell like what's even real anymore with this type of shit because a lot of this shit is like fear mongering type material. And honestly, guys, I don't think there will be a World War III because I feel like if there was one right now, we'd have more like fucking troops getting sent out and probably another draft coming pretty soon. But the fact that nothing's ever happened yet, still, I don't think that's going to happen. That's just my opinion. We honestly have a lot of people that's still in the military that's willing to volunteer, so I think we have more than enough troops. I know anything can happen at any given time, so we'll see what happens in the future, but for right now, dude, I think we have enough people. And to those that are very curious, we're going to break down the military draft and how it works. For most people, you will receive something in the mail once you turn around 18 at your parents' house. They sign up for a registration for like a draft just in case something were to happen for, a quote-unquote emergency. Obviously, for people, you could either do two things. Some people either sign up or they don't, right? And then what happens is that once you sign up, your name's in the system just in case. Now, the draft process is actually interesting. Apparently, the draft happens the same as the Vietnam War, which I actually did not know. And here's how the draft actually works, too, for the order. The Selective Service System says it would most likely hold a draft based on the dates of birth. The number one would correspond to January 1st, 15th of January, etc. Officials would draw numbers similar to drawing numbers for a lottery. So if your birthday is the first one drawn, you're the first to be drafted. So essentially, you are most likely to be chosen by a group of random numbers based off your birthday. And I find that shit really interesting because it's like winning lottery numbers, but with the draft. And it's not the winning lottery numbers that you want to have. And for my luck, dude, it probably happened to me because my birthday's in the early part of the year. It's like March around there. So it's like at the middle of March. Another thing that's also very interesting is that like there was a cutoff date based off the military's needs. So like if there's a certain cutoff date where they won't need you anymore, and I find that shit kind of unique because I feel like the cutoff date probably would be most likely 2003 to 2004 right now, which is kind of scary because there's a lot of 20-year-olds that are also turning 20 in 2005, and that shit makes me feel old just saying that. Actually, I take that back. That's kind of backwards. I'd say the cutoff date would probably be like 96 probably. I will say I'm not a military recruiter, so I don't fully know, but I just find this shit really interesting. There's also a lot of good reasons why Gen Z would not want to be drafted. Like the way America has treated them is pretty scary. Like the cost of living, the economy, the fucking job market, the fucking wages are not rising or helping them at all. It's kind of insane. Like I understand the wages part a little bit because everything would just go up, but it's like, bro, these guys are not getting any type of like assistance or help at all for them to succeed. Everything is 8 times harder than anyone else right now. Also, as a guy that's like really early Gen Z, I could kind of feel this too a little bit. Like, yes, it's really tough, but I will say it is possible. But bro, you have to jump through a million times more hoops and obstacles to get where you need to be than other generations. I can admit that, but it is doable. Also, the information that's been granted at people's fingertips through social media and smartphones has also influenced a lot of Gen Z not to go to war because there's a lot of things in the government that's been exposed to us that most likely would have not been known if it weren't for smartphones or the internet being so big as it was. Nowadays, I know there's a lot of censorship on the internet, but there are still a lot of things that can be found on certain sources and corners of the internet, especially like the dark webs and shit. Like, you just never know, bro. There's a lot of interesting things you could find, and plus, you could still find really fucked up shit off the internet all the time, so I would not be surprised if this was one of the reasons that people do not want to go. Also, people in this generation does not really have families as much. Like, people are having way less children, and I can understand why, bro, because everything's just so expensive, so people just choose not to have them. And honestly, I can respect that 100% because personally for me, I don't want children because of shit like this. And I don't know, man. It's just in my mind, I just feel like it's just not for me because I am a cool ass uncle to some nieces and nephews, and I feel like that's more than enough for me. And last but not least is that a lot of people in this generation already has a big pushback during the workforce. Like there's a lot of rebellion against their bosses and the system itself. What makes you think these same people are going to go out and fight a war for something they're not even involved in and they don't even agree with? Like realistically, if a draft were to happen for Gen Z, I feel like there'd be a lot of prisons filled up to the brim because of it, bro. Because it'd be so many people rebelling and running away and shit, or going to prison that, like, I don't know, like, I don't think prisons would be able to keep up with it because so many people have not wanting to go. But shit, even if they did go, dude, it would be kind of interesting to see what type of battle quotes they'd say because there's going to be a lot of people influenced by old school Call of Duty and shit, and a lot of them will try to be 360 no scoping the enemy troops and throwing grenades in their bunkers like it would be a fucking video game. And some of them will probably be saying some crazy ass quotes from like MW2 about Predator missiles and shit. Oh, and the Fortnite kids too. Man, people be pulling some shit in that game. They'll be trying to build blocks or buildings, or they'll just try to fucking victory royale and do emote dances on the enemy troops as they win. It would be kind of funny, low-key, thinking about it, but, you know, realistically, if that were to happen, they'd probably get shot, and that would probably just be a waste. But honestly, guys, getting drafted kind of terrifies me a little bit, and I can understand why Gen Z would feel this way, because, like, you're literally learning, and you have the chance of ending your life during a war, you know, and it's fucking scary, especially if you don't know anything about, like, guns and shit. I know they train you all this shit, but still, it's like, wow. I rather personally just go to prison because it is an American right to actually exercise your decision, even though it is kind of fucked that you will become a felon and you're in prison for like 5 years max. But if you're on good behavior, you probably cut out sooner. But it's just like, I don't know, man. It's just not for me. I'm not that type of dude, so I'd rather just take the hit. That's just me. But another thing I will say, too, is that there's another side of the generation that not a lot of people want to talk about, but there are some people who are still patriotic and still want to support their country and do what they need to do. And there's some people that are still smart with weapons and guns because despite how one generation is stereotyped, there's still a good amount of, like, those nice people that still stick out, you know? It may not be as common, but they do stick out in a way where it's like, yeah, there's some hope for the future. And personally, I don't think the whole generation is necessarily dumb. I do think a lot of them just think a bit differently, and I do respect the ones that do think a lot more for themselves. They have balls to put their foot down and stand up for things they truly believe in, and I do respect that 100%, and that is actually the most American thing you can ever do. Anyways, everybody, what are your guys' thoughts about Gen Z being drafted and the ones that do not want to go to war? It is kind of a crazy thing to think about, but I will say is that I would not be surprised if older people actually got drafted because of this situation, you know? Like, because yes, there are going to be some young people that are still wanting to go, but I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot more older people if something like this were to happen. But like I said, guys, hypothetically, a draft most likely is not very likely. Alrighty, everybody. Thank you all so much for listening, and I'll see y'all in the next one, so peace out.